on social media or whatever it may be, then that's a problem, right? I think legitimate news sources need to report legitimate news. Ooh, I like that.
That's scary. That's all we got.
Let me see if I can track down the other one. Here's the first one. Let's see if we can track down the other tech. Let me see real quick, guys. Getting in a lab here.
There was a moment during a recent post-game press conference where a reporter raised the topic of an apparent sideline exchange between Caitlin Clark and a teammate, framing it as a possible sign of internal tension within the Indiana Fever roster. The implication was that something had gone sideways between the two players during the game. Clark, who had scored over 20 points in that same contest, seemed genuinely caught off guard by the question. Her teammate pushed back on the premise entirely, calling the reports more speculation than actual journalism, and suggested that content being generated from fan accounts and bots on social media should not be treated as credible news. The moment was sharp and direct, the kind of response that shuts a line of questioning down cleanly.
Completely ridiculous, bro. I just cannot believe Caitlin did not shoot any free throws, bro. I didn't even notice that. Oh, my God, I forgot about this. Oh, I forgot about this right here. So this was the Brittany Griner play in the fourth. Watch Brittany Griner bulldoze Caitlin Clark. She completely bulldozes Caitlin Clark in the fourth.
What actually deserves attention from that game has nothing to do with manufactured drama. There was a play in the fourth quarter where Brittany Griner drove directly through Clark with significant force, a collision that drew no whistle despite appearing to be a clear foul. The contact was heavy enough that an ejection would not have been out of the question. Earlier in the same game, a moving screen went uncalled as well. Clark went to the free throw line 0 times across the entire contest, which only added to the picture of officiating that seemed to consistently work against her.
Bulldoze Caitlin Clark. She completely bulldozes Caitlin Clark in the fourth quarter. Stephanie Weiss hate Caitlin Clark with the passion. I am convinced she definitely hate Caitlin Clark with a passion. Watch this, guys. Watch this. Ridiculous. Why come this wasn't a foul? This was another, should have been a foul, bro.
These are the kinds of recurring patterns that chip away at the integrity of the game when left unaddressed. Clark's actual production over the last 5 games has been remarkable, regardless of the officiating environment. Across that stretch, she has put up 103 points, 37 assists, 27 rebounds, and 14 three-pointers made, with the Fever going 4-1 during that window. The argument that Indiana performs better without her on the floor has no statistical foundation whatsoever. Aaliyah Boston had a rough outing in this particular game, struggling to convert close-range attempts that are typically well within her capability.
She damn near should have got ejected, bro. She damn near should have got ejected for this. Just ridiculous, bro. It's ridiculous what they be going through. And this was a moving screen. And it was a moving screen. Look. She's walking and shit. This is a moving screen. Caitlin Clark cannot win for losing.
It was an uncharacteristic performance from someone who is usually reliable around the basket. The biggest surprise of the night came from Sophie Cunningham, coming off an elbow issue that had people questioning her availability. Cunningham entered the game with about 5 minutes remaining and immediately made an impact. She finished with 11 points in just 18 minutes of play, shooting 4 or 5 from the field and connecting on 3 or 4 from beyond the arc. Clark mentioned after the game that Cunningham had told teammates before tip-off that she was going to knock down 3 threes, and she essentially delivered on that promise.
Caitlin Clark cannot win for losing, bro. Cannot win for losing in this league. And it's just, to me, it takes away from the game. It truly does. But let's watch some of Caitlin Clark highlights in this one, man. We'll come back to some of these no calls and nonsense calls. Let's watch Caitlin Clark ball out. Caitlin Clark is currently sitting at, for the season, for the last 5 games, Caitlin Clark has 100.
Clark credited her for working hard and called her someone the team will need in late game situations going forward. When asked what another close victory reveals about this group, Clark pointed to resilience. She acknowledged that the Fever still need to find their first blowout win, but noted how difficult that is in a league where every team has real talent, athleticism, and the ability to generate second-chance points. She said Indiana could have applied more ball pressure on defense and limited transition opportunities, particularly in the fourth quarter where the opponent put together a run. Connecticut finished the game below its scoring average, which Indiana held as a positive takeaway despite the tighter-than-expected margin.
Is currently sitting at, for the season, for the last 5 games, Caitlin Clark has 103 points, 37 assists, 27 rebounds, 14 3-point shots, and a 4-1 record per dominance. So people that say that the Fever are better without Caitlin Clark are retarded. Shout out to you, Hardy. I see you. AB was absolutely horrible. Yeah, she couldn't make a layup to save her life, Hardy. I can't even lie. Aaliyah Boston couldn't even make a layup for nothing, dog. I ain't lying. She couldn't make a layup to save.
Cunningham's night stood out as the kind of contribution that changes the outcome of a game. Her closing performance, combined with Clark operating as the engine of the offense throughout, gave the Fever enough to secure the win in a game that could have gone the other way. Stephanie White stirred up a significant reaction after post-game comments in which she took aim at fan-driven speculation and independent content creators covering the Indiana Fever. The remarks backfired quickly, drawing criticism from a wide segment of the fan base and the broader online sports community.
She couldn't make a layup to save her life. Completely ridiculous. Just ass. I ain't gonna lie to you. And I hate to go at AB like that, but it's the truth, bro. She played horrendous. Just terrible. Completely terrible. Let's watch some of Caitlin Clark highlights from this game. Another masterpiece performance in a horrible motion offense.
White's central argument was that reporting should come from legitimate news sources rather than social media users or bots. The distinction she drew, however, struck many observers as tone-deaf, given the well-documented frustration among fans who feel the credentialed press has not been holding the franchise accountable on key issues. The response was swift and, as often happens when an organization pushes back against its own fan base, the scrutiny intensified rather than faded. The timing was also notable. The win that preceded her comments came against a team sitting at 2-12 at the time, required a 2 5-point performance from Caitlin Clark and a late 8-point burst from Sophie Cunningham in the final minute and 40 seconds to secure, and came against a roster widely considered to be among the weakest in the league. That context made the defensive posture feel even more out of place. Media personality Robin Lundberg drew attention for publicly amplifying White's comments, which many saw as an endorsement of her position rather than neutral coverage, a move that generated its own layer of criticism online. What added more weight to the conversation was a separate clip from the Come On Now podcast, hosted by Rudy, in which Sports Illustrated writer Grant Young acknowledged the reality of how press access works around the Fever.
These people are literally having back and forth conversations. They're DMing me news and stuff. Actual clips. And unfortunately for her, boy, the last thing a franchise wants is a fandom scorned, because they will go a digging and a digging and a digging better than any journalist or any reporter in this day and time, it seems like. So last night,
Young confirmed that a PR representative physically controls who gets called on during post-game press conferences, prioritizing familiar outlets like ESPN and the athletic reporters the team already has an established relationship with and whose lines of questioning are predictable. Independent reporters, by contrast, are frequently passed over entirely. Rudy himself described attending a Fever game after relocating to Los Angeles, where he attempted to ask questions at a post-game presser and was deliberately skipped. The session lasted approximately 6 minutes.
Time it seems like. So last night, after the game, because look, I'm not about to celebrate that win from last night. They, it took a 25-pointer situation from Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham going berserk for 8 points in the final, minute and 40 to beat a two.
He also raised a specific example that had gone unaddressed by credentialed media. Caitlin Clark had been visibly wearing a back brace since the first preseason game, and through 7 or 8 games, no credentialed reporter had asked a single question about it. Clark then missed time with a back injury going into Game 5, and White characterized it as routine maintenance. A co-host on Rudy's podcast, a professional athlete with a decade in the CFL, noted he had never witnessed mid-game back adjustments treated as standard procedure at that level. Young acknowledged that press conference questions are often softballs, though he framed it partly as a growing pain for a league still adjusting to its expanded platform and audience.
For 8 points in the final, minute and 40 to beat a now 2-13 team, but a 2-12 team with no superstars and a washed Russian convict, former convict in Brittany Griner. So, we're not supposed to point that out. That makes them mad. That makes them upset. And we can't trust the media to ask the right questions. That's my problem with the media anyway. I've said that's why we exist and why we have become so successful.
He stopped short of calling it a systemic failure, but the admission itself reinforced.
That's why we exist and why we have become so successful, not only on this channel, but all of our channels. And of course, people like Stephanie White, let me just keep it real. Part of this is agenda and politics. She's going to lap up and slurp up everything from CNN and MSNBC. When people like me long since quit trusting those media outlets a decade ago. And a lot of people have woken up to this shit.
White's comments essentially dismissed that entire ecosystem, which predictably accelerated the exact scrutiny she was hoping to quiet. The Fever, meanwhile, has been sending out fan surveys amid reports of tickets available at heavily discounted prices. The combination of muted attendance energy, cautious media management, and a coach publicly dismissing fan concerns has created a friction point that the franchise has not yet found a clean way to address. White's post-game statement did not help, if anything. It gave the conversation fresh legs at a moment when letting it settle would have served the organization better.
And a lot of people have woken up to this shit. The conspiracy theories that have all turned out to be true over the last decade. So, my boy over at Keep the Vision, go subscribe. He's got this clip. And by the way, you already have media members. I'm going to keep it real. Robin Lundberg already shared this celebrating her comments. Come on, dude. I mean, I'm not going after you here. I'm not. But don't go after you here. I'm not. But don't go out of your way to elevate her nonsense. We don't respect journalists. Sorry, we don't. And this is not to start a feud with him. I'm not going to. None of that. But the fact that you went out of the way praising this is just absurd to me. I don't get it. I really don't. But I'm going to show you this clip, and then I'm going to show you a clip from Rudy's podcast, the Come On Now podcast, where he was interviewing Grant Young. And Grant Young acknowledged the Indiana Fever PR team only wants insulated journalists asking certain kinds of questions. Because Rudy asked, hey, there's all these things we want to know. By the way, Rudy is an actual credentialed reporter. He's credentialed for the Miami Hurricanes. A credentialed reporter. He's credentialed for the Miami Hurricanes football team and a couple of other things. And he's, by the way, he's a basketball coach. I'm not sure anybody knows that or not, right? It's a really good podcast. So my boy over at Keep the Vision, he put this in his video. Let's listen to Stephanie White from postgame.
It looks like Stephanie White didn't stop there. She didn't stop there. Stephanie White